Because
I
I
think if
only
you could
what
do it,
I've
that'd
read
be
from
nice.
here. Huh?
It'd be nice if you could do it, and then.
Yes, definitely. So I have known about We the People from last 2 years, where a few friends of mine have been working as a musical group. They have been working on the preamble song, which was released this Republic Day on 26th of January. So Ms. Vinita Singh, she has done her education in management from SP Jain Institute in Mumbai and in social policy from London School of Economics. She's the trustee at the NGO called We the People, which is working full time for the constitutional awareness amongst the citizens. Her main focus over the last 20 years has been to build people's capacities to uphold their rights and practice all the constitutional responsibilities within the constitutional and democratic framework. And I have been amazed by seeing the kind of projects We the People has been doing as I was exploring the website. They have done interesting projects with the students in pedagogy on content development. So we are very lucky to have Vinita ji here in person, and she's going to enlighten us on the preamble of India, which we memorized during our civics classes during school, but we hardly understood it. So we are hoping to have a good, interesting discussion. Welcome, Vinita ji. It's over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vani, and thank you for, of course, the Sharda University for organizing this and asking us to contribute towards this these kind of series. I think that COVID-19 has done many things to our lives. It has disrupted it in many different ways, but we have also found ways to overcome the big human need to connect, to learn, and online technology is helping us do that. It certainly has some limitations, but I think we've also been able to take advantage of it. So I am really happy to be here, all the students here. I welcome you. Thank you very much for joining. I can imagine that you must be having tons of Zoom calls and online teaching, and I can understand that it's also very tiring to have that kind of a schedule without actually having your friends to mess around with, because part of the fun of going to college is to mess around with your friends, and that we can't do. So I can understand your plight. I also can tell you that I have been on many Zoom calls today. I've been on one Zoom call with activists and friends from Gujarat. So they were sitting in fields in different places. अपने खेतों से वो बात कर रहे थे. और एक तरफ I was feeling that it's an amazing thing that we can connect in this way. And on the other hand, of course, we have to constantly be online, which is a little bit of a bummer. But anyway, I'm very, very happy to be with you on this medium. I've been asked to talk about constitutional awareness and understanding. And frankly, we the people, we are dedicated to this cause and this cause only. Many people ask us, how come it is not that you're working on, let's say, other, there's livelihoods, there's health, there's many other causes to work on. And I think all those causes are extremely important. But about 10 years back, we thought that the Constitution of India and its understanding is in itself a cause. Because when we go about our lives, our daily lives, we sometimes forget the protection that this Constitution has given us, the abilities that it has helped us to discover about ourselves. Too often we look at, of course, what is not happening, which is also important, but in our daily life we are able to converse like this. On this call, I was invited for this by another very fine lady, Vani, and I, as a woman, I'm talking to you now. If the Constitution would not have provided for certain benefits and certain protection that women get, maybe I wouldn't have been able to speak to you. And you may have been bereft of many wonderful women teachers and leaders. So every day of our life, we are actually living the protection that the Constitution has given us. Every moment when I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to you with absolute candor, you're listening to me, these are acts that are protected by the Constitution. And sometimes we forget that, because they're so commonplace, that we forget that these protections are part of a framework that guarantees this protection. And we forget that to ensure that this guarantee remains is one of the biggest duties of every citizen of this country. Every citizen. To ensure that today, the way I'm speaking to you, that is something that remains forever, is something that I have to guarantee, and you have to guarantee. So we found that the Constitution really is the hero of the piece in the country, and the hero doesn't get talked about too much. And sometimes the hero is very boring. You see, when you civics teacher talks in a such, perhaps the methodologies are such that, you found the hero boring. So we decided, therefore, to focus on the Constitution and its awareness and its understanding. So for me, the most important part of the constitutional understanding is really one page of the Constitution of India, and which is the preamble to the Constitution of India. I think that if we can deep dive into this one page and try to understand the facets of this one page, we can then start to practice some of what is given there. The Constitution itself is almost like a reference book for us as citizens. I'm not talking about those who use it in an everyday life in their careers, but I'm talking about you and me. We citizens are going to use this document, and I don't know how many of you have actually seen the document, so I'm going to use this opportunity to show it to you. I have my copy just lying here. So this is the Constitution of India, right? Yeah. It's a fairly thin, not so big, huh? But this document, I always use it as a reference. There is something that happens on television, some anchor on a radio show is saying something about perhaps an incident that happened in a village or in a town, and it's the impact that it has had. It's very important to look back at the Constitution and the articles there to see that what that person is saying is actually correct or not. We have many debates without referring to the actual articles in the Constitution that explain what this protection is about. So for instance, you may talk about many articles without fully understanding what it really means. So for me, the Constitution is a copy that I always pick up when somebody is referring to X, Y, Z injustice. It's very important to just pick up the article that refers to that injustice. And so the Constitution is an excellent reference book for daily life. But the first page, the one page that for us is a critical one to look at, and I'm going to look at that today, is the preamble. So I'm going to request Vani ma'am to just put it up for us. I'm sure that at some point in your life, you have seen this one page. The NCERT syllabus, all the books, it starts with this one page. I think that is clearly what is in all NCERT textbooks. It's also just one page which is beautifully decorated with flowers and animal motifs in the original one. Uh, this preamble uh, is is like what you might say the soul of the Constitution. It's also the vision and value statement. And in that sense, it holds the most importance to us. Now, you know, many organizations, even universities that you are part of, the Sharda University, must have a vision and a value statement. Many organizations invest in making sure that everyone understands what they stand for. What does that organization stand for? What are those, what is it that it's moving towards, and what are the values that that organization holds dear? Now, if you look at the nation of India, the Indian nation, this one page is the vision and values of the Indian nation. It is actually saying what is it that we are moving towards. हम किस तरीके की सोसाइटी या किस तरीके की जिंदगी की तरफ जा रहे हैं? Where are we going? The vision of this nation and the values that we will hold dear while making this movement into the future. In other words, when we are moving towards the vision that we are setting for ourselves, these will be the values that we will constantly try to hold dear, constantly try to hold on to. This is the meaning of the preamble to the Constitution of India. And therefore, it's important that all of us citizens, just sometimes it's good to just take a deep dive into it. Yeah. So I am just going to help us take this deep dive. And once I've done this, I'm going to stop and then ask, anybody can ask questions and we can have an interesting discussion. Because of course, discussion and debate is at the heart of what we believe is the way in which the Indian nation has been brought about, and also what we stand for. So let's look at this now. Okay, let's take it word by word. This is how I'm going to do it. Okay, so let's start with we the people of India. Okay, these are the starting words of the preamble to the Constitution of India. And what does this we the people of India mean? So this we the people of India actually includes all people, past, present, and the future. It represents the effort of all Indian people, of all regions, religions, no religions, castes, classes, genders, and not just two genders, more than two, cultures, languages, and ideologies. So we, the people of India, actually is an inclusion of all the diversity of India. Every diversity of India is represented in we, the people of India. It's not we, one part of people of India. It is all parts, all diversity of India is represented in that one phrase, which is we, the people of India. And now what happens with this we, the people of India? What are we doing? We are solemnly resolving. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved. It's a serious decision. After thinking and deliberation, we solemnly resolve to do what? Let's look at the things that we have solemnly resolved. The first thing is to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. We've solemnly resolved to do, number one, constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. What does this mean? It means that we are creating for ourselves a mechanism, जिसको हम बोलते हैं तंत्र, a system which has these characteristics. What are these characteristics? That system will be sovereign, जिसको हम व्यवस्था बोलते हैं, तंत्र बोलते हैं. That system will be sovereign, meaning that India is internally and externally free from control of any foreign power, and internally it has a free government which is elected by the people and makes laws that govern the people. So we make our own laws. This tantra, this mechanism, will make our own laws, sovereign in the making of our own laws and the way we want to run this country. Second, this mechanism, and this mechanism is actually the state will be socialistic, will be socialist. What does socialist mean? It means that the state will, in this context, make no discrimination, provide equal status and opportunities, and that the government will make efforts for more equal distribution of wealth and a decent standard of living for all. For all. This word socialist shows a commitment to a welfare state. Now the third feature, this state will also be secular. What does state being secular mean? It means that India, the nation, does not have an official state religion. The government, the system will not favor or discriminate against any religion. And all citizens, irrespective of their religious beliefs, are equal in the eyes of law. This is what we mean by a secular vyavastha. Dharm nirpaksh vyavastha. This is what we mean by a secular state. The fourth feature is that it will be democratic, which means that the system will be such that the people of India will elect their governments at all levels. And what does republic mean? Republic means that the head of the state, the president, is also an elected position, not a hereditary one, and that every citizen of India is eligible to become the president of the country. These 5 features are what we have resolved, that we will constitute India into a system with these 5 features: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Right? So this is the first solemn resolve. The second solemn resolve is, let's go ahead and to secure to all its citizens. So we, the people of India, will first constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And along with this system, we will secure to all its citizens. To secure to all its citizens. This is the second solemn resolve. That we will secure to all the citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity. This is what we are going to secure to all citizens. This is a very, very important point to make, that we are here, we the people of India, solemnly resolve to secure to all its citizens these values. And we must understand these values as justice, which doesn't mean the system of justice. Let's be very clear here. What we mean by justice here is a fairness, the value of fairness, the value of impartiality, the value that we will be fair in economic, social, and political fields. We will ensure a fair opportunity for people to participate in social sphere, in economic sphere, and in political sphere. That's what we mean by justice, not to be confused by the system or the judicial system. This is the value of justice, which is fairness. The second is the value of liberty, or what we call freedom of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. And what are we saying? We will secure to all citizens, which means that I will secure to myself freedom and also secure the same freedom for others. So it's not a one-way street here. The third value that we are talking about is equality of status and opportunity, which doesn't mean that all of us are equal as in we are the same to each other. It's not that. It means that we are to secure equality of status and opportunity. However different we may be, from wherever we start, we will provide to each other an equality of status and opportunity. And the third thing that we are solemnly resolving to do, you remember we started with saying, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved. The first resolution was around constituting India. The second resolution is around securing to all its citizens the values of justice, liberty, equality, and equality. And the last thing that we are talking about securing is to promote amongst them all. The third resolve is to promote amongst them all fraternity, जिसको हम बोलते हैं मैत्री, या जिसको हम बोलते हैं brotherhood or sisterhood. So what we are saying is that we will solemnly resolve, and the third resolve is to promote among them all fraternity. And what kind of fraternity? Which assures the dignity of the individual on one hand and the unity and integrity of the nation. This is the kind of fraternity that we will promote amongst all. It's very important to look at the definition of fraternity here. It gives value and balance to the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. And then it goes on to say, in our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. So actually, if you look at it, if you just see the first line, which is we the people of India, and go down to the last line, which is give to ourselves this Constitution, it basically puts the ownership of the Constitution and the system and the nation into the hands of we the people of India, into the hands of the citizens of India. It actually is an ownership document of you and me. This really is the intent and purpose and vision and values of all of us and the Indian nation. Now, just before I complete, I want to say 2-3 points. Given that this is an ownership document, what it means is that we, the people of India, have put together a mechanism which will work on these values, which means that the state which we have constituted has to work towards securing the values of equality, liberty, justice, and fraternity. And therefore, that state is actually accountable to us. And we are responsible to ensure that the state actually makes laws, enacts laws, implements laws which protect liberty, equality, justice, and fraternity. The second thing that it means is, as an ownership document, it means that while the state is working on these values, we must ourselves work on these values. It's not just for the state to do this. It is also us. We will have to practice these values in our lives, in our families, in our societies, with our friend groups. We can't say that the state is the only holder of these values. Not at all. Actually, the holder of these values and the practice of these values is you and me. In our families is where we will confront these values first. It is in our families that we confront these values of equality, of liberty. And it is here that we must actually be starting to practice these values. So our citizenship is about practicing these values with ourselves, our own lives, our families, society, and the state. The third thing I want to say is that this practice of these values is not easy. It's not easy at all. But somehow nobody told us this. So we just came into this democratic nation and we expect that it will be equal and liberty will be there and everybody will be very nice with each other. That's not how it happens. That is the destination. The equality is really a destination. We have to work towards it. And it's not only the state that's going to work towards it, it's you and me who's going to work towards it. And working on this is one of the most difficult challenges of a citizen in a democratic country. What our teachers omitted to tell us was that coming into this country means that you'll have to work very hard. That in a democratic country, you are the owner, which means that you will have to protect your rights, you will have to fight for your rights, and you will have to ensure that you do your duties. So the preamble really is a message to all of us that we own this document, we own the nation, and get ready for a difficult but a wonderful process of discovering ourselves and these values in our lives. I'll stop here. I hope that I've been able to communicate the essence of the preamble to the Constitution of India. I'm open for questions or queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinita ji. Can I stop the sharing of the preamble or we'll?
Yes, we can stop the sharing of the preamble, not a problem.
Okay. Yes, so there are 2 questions already in the chat box.
Sure.
One which says secularism acts only when the Hindus are in majority. See West Bengal and Kashmir.
Okay. You mean secular state acts only when Hindus are in majority? Is that what you're trying to say? The question is, are you saying that the secular state acts only when Hindus are in majority? This question needs a little bit of a explanation. I'm not able to say, I'm not able to fully communicate to that.
Question it is, Ajay, would you like to switch your mic on and ask the question? Ajay, are you there? I think she's not here yet, so we will move on to the next question till then.
Yes, please.
Back,
yes,
yeah.
please.
And Disha says, ma'am, do you believe that with equality and equity is also very important to be part of the constitution?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Yes, that's a very good question. So, can you tell me the name of the person who said this, please? Ask this.
Disha.
Disha. Right, Disha. Disha, that's a very important question. Yes, I do believe that equality and equity both are extremely important parts of the Constitution. The Constitution lays out rights, and our the entire structure is based on the value of equality in the Constitution, right? It gives us the protections that that we, for instance, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example and why I'm saying this, and I'll also qualify it a little bit more. At the time of the making of the Constitution, there was a big debate about whether all citizens should be given the right to vote. I know that that's not how we see the reality today. The reality is that all of us have the right to vote once we are 18, correct? But at the time that it was being made, there was a big debate because all over the world, very few countries had given everyone the right to vote at one time. America did not give the right to vote to blacks for many years after its constitution was made. Also, women in America did not get the right to vote for, I think, 130 years after their constitution was made, that women in America got the right to vote. So the normal situation was that when the constitution is made and the right to vote is given, not everybody gets the right to vote. That was the normal situation 70 years back. However, because equality was such an important concept in the Constitution and was put as the forefront value of the Constitution, everybody, after debate, agreed that, and I'll give you an example, I'll just tell you, the debate was that only literate people should be given the right to vote, because they will understand better how to. So there were many debates around it, but only literate people were going to be given the right to vote, and slowly after 10-20 years, more people would be given the right to vote. This is what was the debate happening. But because equality was such an important consideration, at one time, it was clear that everyone will get the right to vote. Irrespective of genders, irrespective of anything, everybody got the right to vote. Now, this is why I believe that equality is a very crucial aspect of the Constitution. Now, having said that, the Constitution is a framework. It is like a mother of all laws, right? But who makes laws? Who makes laws? It's you, me, and our elected representatives. So, over a period of time, we have to make sure that we have more equal laws, that we behave equally with each other. The Constitution gives us the framework to do that. But living that framework, we have to do. Even the last 70 years, you will see the number of times that citizens have fought for equality. Because Constitution gives you the framework, but our life is not like that, right? There are so many inequalities in our life. But it's up to us, each citizen, to ensure that we are able to bring in place laws which move us towards more equality and equity. That's up to us. संविधान हमें फ्रेमवर्क देता है, पर हमें काम करना पड़ेगा वो करने के लिए. I hope, Disha, I'm able to answer your question. Thank you, Disha. Thank you. Another question has come up from Shashank. When we talk about equality, don't you think that giving reservation in itself creates difference among society? How can everyone be truly equal if reservations exist? Right. Yeah. Sure, Shashank. Reservations is a method. It certainly brings in a framework where we see that people are not equal to each other, in the sense that the status and opportunity that we talk about is something that we must be equally getting. Absolutely right. The reservations argument is really an argument towards what we call justice. It's a justice argument. The argument here is that if we are to provide equality of status and opportunity, we will have to ensure that those who haven't been able to get that status and opportunity because of certain issues of birth, nothing else but birth. It is a matter of birth that certain status and opportunity has not been given to them. Then we must try to bring fairness into the system. So, in fact, you're absolutely right that if we have reservations, we are actually saying that there is a difference in equality for different people. But when you juxtapose that value with justice, you will see that what the reservations argument is, which is a valid argument, is that you have to provide for certain measures, for certain benefits for people to come to that status and opportunity. So it's a justice argument. Now, over a long period of time, is it that you need this justice argument? That's up to discussion, debate. We must question ourselves that have we progressed enough? What kind of measures are needed to be given to make sure that status of opportunity and the equality of status and opportunity comes about? उसके लिए हमें क्या करना पड़ेगा? हो सकता है वो जो mechanisms हैं वो बदलते रहें, but the core argument of reservation is a justice argument, and it is this that is extremely important to say that to bring about equality of status and opportunity, we need certain reservations that are made for certain classes of people. Whether that is something that extends forever and ever, that is open for discussion and debate. I hope that
there is another, yeah.
Shashank, I hope that was all right and clear to you.
Yes. So there is another question from Disha. She's saying that what you said, that yes, there is partiality and biasness that we face in our professional lives, in colleges and offices, and I think even in our families. So how should we fight back?
Thanks, Disha, for asking that question, because I think our lives is all about that. Huh? So how do we fight back? Now, you know, in some ways I feel that let's recognize that this may not actually be a fight. That you know, there are many conditions under which we have lived. We see today that you know, for many years we have been conditioned in many ways, in ways that don't help us move towards equality, liberty, and justice. Now, that is a conditioning that has existed in our society, in our families, in our workplaces. I think the first thing that we have to do is to recognize this conditioning. To recognize it. Not necessarily with anger, but to recognize it. Many times we don't even recognize it. many times we don't understand that actually what we are doing, even what I am doing, is actually not leading us to equality, liberty and justice. हम अपने आप को भी नहीं समझ पाते हैं. So to me, the first thing, Disha, actually, for me, if I was to say to you, first thing is to recognize that where in my life, in my everyday life, am I doing things that are actually taking me behind, taking me in the opposite direction of equality, liberty and justice and fraternity. First, I would do that. The second thing, I think, is to decide what is it that matters to you the most? What is it that you want to really work on? Because this will involve you talking to people you love, talking to your family, your parents, your friends who are very dear to you, but who are actually taking you back. You need to be able to talk to people. I think talking is a very important part of fighting. And the third is actually that the legal system in this country is available to us. I know it's not easy. I know it's very tough. But over the last 70 years, people have fought back using the laws of the land, using the legal system. Not been easy, have been very difficult, but still that system is available to us to use. And there are many examples of it. Young children doing it, adults doing it. If they see something wrong, they've used the system of justice, the legal system, to fight back. So I would say these are all these opportunities are available to us. Okay.
Thank you, Geeta ji. There are a few more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Anjali ma'am is asking if what about the labor laws? Right now, during the lockdown, everybody is, feeling for the laborers, migrant laborers who have nothing to eat. So, at these difficult times, how does the Constitution help? What can we do for them?
In my view, there are various ways of looking at helping this situation. It's an extremely agonizing situation, actually. On the basis of equality, they have been differentiated. They have been discriminated. This particular group of workers who have moved from there, I'm not very happy with this particular wording, which is migrant workers. Really, they are citizens. They are citizens who have moved from one place to another, and they do a job in a different location from where they were born, or let's say where their village is. I'm also a migrant, right? I was born in Bhopal. My father moved to Bombay for opportunities of work, and I have moved to Gurgaon for the same opportunities of work. But the difference in these citizens and me, why am I not called migrant? Migrant worker, and why did I not suffer in this time? Is because two reasons. They have not been thought of as citizens who need security of work. That one issue which dominates these people is that security of work has not been assured. And second is that they are in fact poorer than other migrants who have moved and who may be far richer. So this situation of COVID-19, the way it has affected migrant workers, this category, I'm using the same word as you, though I don't agree with that definition very much. These are poor people who affect. All I'm trying to say now, constitutional values have been completely not upheld when it came to this category. Their interests were not thought of, and I think that many people have tried to do many things. Just one. First of all, I think that many of us have tried to help in many ways by providing support, by providing ration. I myself have been involved in many initiatives around that. That is one way of looking at it. But I think the other way of looking at it is to ask, how is it that people who are working in factories, who are daily wage workers, why is it that they do not have security? And I think that we citizens and they themselves will have to fight for this right, for social security for all citizens, especially those citizens whose livelihoods are so precarious. And this fight is something that you will have to do, I will have to do, and they themselves will have to do. I think that we have not, while the Constitution provides us this framework, now it is up to us to take this fight forward. And I do think that this category of workers has been, from a constitutional values perspective, on the value of justice and on the value of equality, they have certainly not been treated fairly.
True. Thank you, Veertaji. That does clear some. There are two more questions from Music Mind. I don't know what's the name. So the first question he asked is, what about the Citizen Amendment Bill and the NRC? Are they against Constitution? And the second question is about our Prime Minister talking to the common man like a one-sided cassette player over radio and television in Mann Ki Baat. Do you think, is it fair, the way of communication?
Okay. I'll take it. Question. In the way in which has been passed, certainly questions around the way in which interpreted. So there are certainly many issues around the way in which it has interpreted the values and the rights for all people within the act itself. And therefore, this questioning with relation to the CAB and the NRC, these are questions that we all must still ask. Any law that comes about is, and this is not to do only with CAB and not only to do with, and it's, by the way, it's already an act, so we can't call it amendment bill. It's an act, it's CAA. So any act that comes about, this is our elected representatives who are making these acts and the laws, right? Now it is up to all us citizens that if we have questions about the act, we must raise it. Some questions may be valid, some questions may not be valid, but questioning is still important. And therefore, it becomes very important for governments to be able to explain the constitutionality, the way in which they are able to protect the constitutional values through the act. They should be able to explain it. And it is our responsibility as citizens to ask for that explanation. I think that is a very important thing that we must understand. That not only the CAA, but any other act should always be viewed from the point of view of looking at whether it is upholding the values of the Constitution or is it not. Or is there some interpretation that is not very clear? And I think that is an important question all of us must be asking about the CAA in particular, but any act in general. Does that answer your question? Let me know if there's any further question from that. But the other question is around Mr. Modi in terms of the Mann Ki Baat and that being one-sided. Well, I think Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister, has the right to choose his method of being able to talk to people, of being able to convey his ideas to people. I think there should be more than one Mann Ki Baat. There can be many Mann Ki Baat, and I think it's a very important way in which he communicates to everybody about what his government is thinking, what he is thinking as Prime Minister. And therefore, from that point of view of communication, it's an important piece of communication. Now, there have to be many methods of communication. And I think that all those methods have to be asked for and also have to be made available. So in my view, the Mann Ki Baat is actually an excellent way of reaching out to people. It has been done in a way that many people can understand at least what is the view of the government on some things. But as I said, it's always open to all of us citizens. And he is the Prime Minister of our state and of our government, to always make available every kind of feedback and communication to the Prime Minister's office. An example, as I also I want to mention, that if you go to the website of the Prime Minister's office, there is in fact a very how do I say, responsive method where you can feedback at any time on any issue. So please use every method. I'll also say to you that when Mann Ki Baat gets broadcasted and gets made, many individuals contribute towards that. Contribute towards it. Maybe the Prime Minister will not pick up what you are saying, but there is a chance that he may pick up what you are saying. After all, the point about our role, okay, is that we must be communicative, right? Are you communicating enough? Write to the Prime Minister's office, what are your concerns? Email them. These are all methods available, and the Prime Minister has the right to choose, of course, what is the best method he or she wants to take up. And in that view, in my view, many methods should be available for the Prime Minister himself. Right. Okay. Anything else? Right. Sorry. Sorry, Vani, can you help me? I'm lost. Have we been answering okay? I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
You are answering well, and I think few students are responding back with yes, and you are not.
Yeah. I have to say, of course, that debate and discussion is at the heart of any democracy. So I'm sorry, but this is slightly one-sided. I know that when I say something, you may have even more questions and arguments about what I am saying, and I respect that. Okay, sometimes the medium doesn't allow us to do what we would love to do, and I would love to argue with you and see what your views are, and also try to respond and learn from you. So I'm sorry about this slightly one-way kind of method. I'm sorry about it, but sometime in the future we'll meet.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. As soon as the lockdown opens, we would invite you to have a heart-to-heart discussion.
Sure. Okay, we can take a couple more questions. No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Shashank again. When first democracy was born in Athens, their philosophers and senators also talked about the possibility of democratic world turning into demagogue world with everyone having the right to vote. So what are your thoughts on that? Okay. See, I have to give them the benefit of doubt. They were the ones who innovated or invented democracy. Okay. In that sense, in the modern world. Although I have to say that in India, there have been methods of using democracy from even 3,000 years back. Okay, but in the modern world, Athens and the Greek state is given the privilege, of course, of being the people who invented democracy. Now, having said that, I can only say that, you know, democracy as an idea has also, evolved over the years, right? Democrats in Athens thought that only men, and there were many conditions, men of a certain stature with a certain wealth, only they can be given the right to vote, right? And there were many conditions, by the way. Some conditions were absolutely horrendous, right? But that was then. That was what, 3rd century BC or around that time? Yeah. Now we have evolved for so many years. And I think democracy, the main idea being everyone, each one gets a voice. If that's the main concept of democracy, then I do believe that they were just starting out. Yeah, we have to give them the benefit of doubt. For me, democracy is about each one and their voice, and therefore I cannot imagine India being a place where not everyone is given a voice. I cannot imagine it. So I love Plato and I love Socrates, but I would just say that they were just starting off, and we have come a long way from them. Okay.
There is a last question from me, I think.
Okay, Vani, your question. During the discussion of CA, I came to know Ambedkar ji was against writing socialist and secular in the preamble. They were introduced later in 1976. Yeah, can you bring more clarity? You're absolutely right. I'm not sure about Ambedkar being against it, but it is certainly a fact that the socialist and secular, these two words, were not in the preamble, in the original preamble, which was made, when the Constitution was made. So these two words, which are the features of the state, these two words were not there in the original Constitution. This is absolutely factually correct. I'm not sure about Ambedkar's views on this, whether it was included, it should be included or not. Those views I'm not very clear about. But the fact is, it was not there, and it was introduced, absolutely right, by the 42nd Amendment in the Constitution during Indira Gandhi's rule. During emergency, this was inserted into the preamble by the 42nd Amendment. So this is absolutely true. Okay. Now, just to bring a little bit more clarity to this, the fact of the matter is that the word socialist, let's say that even if it wasn't there, okay, our entire Constitution, if you look at the directive principles, if you look at the whole equity focus in our Constitution, it is reflective of or talking about government's role in welfare, right? So has been a feature of our state, even if, let's say, at that time socialist word was not there, right? But the entire Constitution has socialism of the state as a very important principle, right? And so it wasn't there at that time. But socialist was put in the. So again is the whole area of secular. The state has to be secular. India has no. This word also was put into the Constitution by the same amendment, into the preamble by the same amendment. But again, if you entire fundamental rights, our directive principles, the way the state has been given responsibilities, you will see that law will be held as same. These are important precepts of secular in nature. So again, see that this preamble is really into the Constitution. The Constitution elaborates the preamble. The preamble contains a list of it. So in my view, it's really an of the preamble is really an or a gist of the Constitution, and these principles are actually part of the entire Constitution. Now, said that 42nd May preamble, one more actually unity of the nation. Even India was added in 42nd. Hello.
Thank you, Vinita ji. I think that answers my question. There was a lot of debate. People who were against the word secular,
Yeah.
they were trying to say that it was an enforced thing and it was never the original part of the Constitution, and that India should be a Hindu country and something like that.
Yeah. I just also want to say one more thing, Vani, is that after the 42nd Amendment was made, when the Janata Party came into power, a 43rd Amendment was also made, where many of the things in the 42nd Amendment were cancelled. Okay, many changes that 42nd Amendment had made were made again by the 43rd Amendment. Many things were actually changed again by the 43rd Amendment, but these words were not changed, even by the subsequent government. I just want to say that, yeah.
I think that was a wonderful discussion. We had a lot of interesting questions, and you were able to answer them very wonderfully. We will have a lot more heart-to-heart conversations and, as you said, debates and discussions. Once we invite you to the university, we would like to thank you so much. Thank you for this session. Thank you for giving your time, and yes, very informative discussion.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. I'm also very thankful that one of your students has talked about the fact that their neighbor actually put inputs into Mann Ki Baat. Please continue to put inputs into wherever possible. Your voice needs to be heard, okay? And you as citizens, you own that voice. So please just make sure that your voice is heard. Ye to hona hi hai. So thank you. I'm very happy to be part of this discussion. And please do, please connect with us. We are available on Instagram on We the People Abhiyan. And also on Facebook, we have a website, which is wethepeople.oo. And please do connect with us even at that time. And I'm very, very happy that you all have been here. Thank you very much. I'm just writing the website over here so that everybody can see it. And do follow us on Instagram.
Absolutely. You can share the details. We will share in the groups also for the students who were not able to attend. They can also connect with you. And we hope that we will have more sessions in the upcoming month.
Yes.
And good collaboration with the Sharda University, a long-term collaboration with We the People is what we look forward to.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Vinita.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Bye.